I'm Dr. Dawn Roberts. I was Economic Development Manager at the time of the Pontcysyllte World Heritage bid. And it was one day in discussion with my colleague Dan Roberts-Jones that I just happened to say, I wonder why Pontcysyllte isn't a World Heritage Site. Because at the time we knew it was a proposed World Heritage Site. It was on the UK government's list of 25 possible World Heritage Sites. And we just naively thought somebody would come along and give it World Heritage Site status. And that question started a 6-year journey, which ended in 2009 when it actually became a World Heritage Site. In World Heritage terms, many of the sites that already existed were in the developed world. The UK could no longer just put forward any number of sites every year. They were now limited to one site a year, 25 proposed sites on the tentative list. So Pontcysyllte would probably have to take its turn. Dal and I, being local girls and very proud of our aqueduct, thought, well, no, we've got to do something about this, because at the time, in the UK, England had 17 World Heritage Sites. I think Scotland had about 4 and Wales had 2. So we felt it was a little bit unbalanced in UK terms. So that started the journey, really. We went away and got the funding to do some research and bring in experts. The other part of the journey really was to get very important organisations on board behind us. And I've always talked about it as 5 traffic lights that were on red that we had to turn from red to green. The first one was our own council, Wrexham Council, and we had their support almost straight away, because why wouldn't they want to get behind a bid? The second one was British Waterways. They're now called the Canal and River Trust, but basically they own the canal, the structures, and so it was important to persuade them, and they came on board. And then there was Welsh Government. And before I go any further, what I need to say is, initially it was just the aqueduct, but as time went on, we were advised that it would be a much stronger bid if we actually increased the length of the site. The selection criteria, if you like, for the site was, where is the outstanding canal engineering? Where does it start and where does it finish? And so it naturally extended through the feeder canal to the Horseshoe Falls on the River Dee, where the water is extracted that feeds into the canal. And on the other end, we extended over the border into England across Chirk Aqueduct to Gledrid. We then had to get the UK government to agree, but before that we obviously had to prove that we had support from our colleagues across the border in Oswestry Town Council, and then Shropshire County Council, and then English Heritage above that. And then on the Welsh side we extended into Denbighshire, so we needed their commitment to the project as well. So we had to get all that sorted before going eventually to the UK government to get them to give us a slot, basically 1 year slot nomination to UNESCO, and they gave us 2008. It was vital we got the local community involved for a number of reasons. First of all, it's their heritage and they're very proud of it and want to tell the story across the world. But more importantly, you need to make sure the local community are happy with your proposals, because a World Heritage Site is going to bring in many visitors from all over the world. UNESCO require you to prove that you've consulted the local community. And there was a questionnaire that anyone in the community could fill in return to us. And I'm just so proud to say that we had 200 filled in, 94% approval rate for the bid going forward. So you couldn't say better than that. What happens is Paris do a sort of a technical check that everything they've asked for is there. And then they pass it over to, for a cultural site, they pass it over to an organisation called ICOMOS, which is the International Committee on Monuments and Sites. And basically that committee comprises experts. And they appoint 2 assessors. One of them is a desk based assessment. So that assessor looks at the history and the accuracy of what we're saying and looks at comparisons across the world and checks our arguments that it meets the various criteria and has outstanding universal value. The other assessor is somebody that comes to visit the site and checks the site and checks it's all there and checks there are no issues and checks that it's managed well and meets the local organisations and meets the local community. In our case, it was Professor Reinhold Carstensen from Sweden. And he came over and we planned, I think it was a 4-day visit. And during that time, we showed him the whole 11 miles. He went up in a helicopter so he could take an aerial view. So those two assessments then go forward to the World Heritage Committee. And the committee meets once a year to look at inscribing new World Heritage sites. So the committee met in June 2009 in Seville, in Spain, and we waited for 2 days for Pontcysyllte to come forward because there's an agenda but it's not timed. So if one site gets into a lot of debate and discussion, it can take up half a day. And when our turn came, we had no idea what questions they were going to ask us. And the committee is always made up of 21 states. That is out of perhaps 140 states that are signed up to the World Heritage Convention. And we had, I think, 3 questions, which were easily answered. And then a number of states, state after state, they said, "I'd like to speak, please." And they, I'm getting upset now. They just said it was fantastic, you know, the quality of the bid and the quality of the site, that without reservation it should be a World Heritage Site. And then they all stood up and came and shook our hands. But because of this agenda going on and you never knew what time it was 8:46 in the evening when we got World Heritage Site status, and they were still waiting at Trevor Basin to hear have the phone call come through. The big celebration was November, later that in the autumn, and it was like a huge party. And the World Heritage Assessor, bless him, came over from Sweden to join in the celebrations because he was so chuffed with the site and so pleased that it had got World Heritage Site status. And it was a big party with all the community, you know, open to the public, fireworks going off. Amazing. It's a huge undertaking, a World Heritage bid, and it can only be successful if you have a good team, and that's what we had. I'm immensely proud looking back. Often, because I live in the area, I often get asked by visitors, "Can you tell me the way to the canal or to the World Heritage Site?" Something like that. And I give them instructions and I just smile quietly and walk on. But I feel a great sense of pride, really, in everything we did, you know. And there are people coming from all over the world to visit Pontcysyllte, which is what we hoped.